Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry, served by Applebee's.
Welcome to Fantasy Football Happy Hour. I'm Jay Croucher, Lawrence Jackson, Forlorn, Matthew Berry. You know, Matthew, initially that open included Eagles celebrations, but we got rid of them for you. And
I appreciate it. I saw plenty of them last night. I don't need to see more. I saw plenty of them. I was surrounded by them. We can get into that a little bit later in the show.
Indeed.
But, yeah, we're here. It's the Super Bowl teams are set, the teams that no one wanted to see except for Connor Rodgers.
And me.
This is the matchup you wanted, Lawrence?
Of course, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, my preseason Super Bowl matchup was the Eagles and the Ravens, so I got half of that. So here we are.
Right.
Okay. Well,
exactly.
Lots to get to today. We'll talk about both conference championship games. We'll talk about coaching updates. Ryan Schottenheimer is the coach of the Dallas Cowboys, apparently. A little Senior Bowl preview and a word from a man, Connor Rogers, who will be back next week. And then we'll close out with our early best bets for the Super Bowl. But we're going to get to the Commanders. We'll get to that, Matthew. But let's start off with Bills Chiefs. And let's hear from Patrick Mahomes on being back in the Super Bowl.
It's just so hard to get to the Super Bowl, and I don't take it for granted. And to be able to do it again at Arrowhead was special. I mean, last year it was awesome. You get there and you win it, but you're at a different stadium. And then being able to win it at Arrowhead, and then you get that trophy on that stage, and you look around, and there's not a seat empty. It is a special place, and I'm glad that I get to be a part of Chiefs Kingdom and here in Kansas City because these moments that I'll have for the rest of my life.
Okay, feels like routine at this point for Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, was that this year or was that either any of the previous 4 years? Like they've
gotta beat the best.
I mean, dude, 4 of the past 5 years, third straight Super Bowl appearance. Listen, they got some help, but they did.
They got some help, but also I think they were clearly the better team, and they deserved to win. And Mahomes had his most efficient game in 2 years, had an insane success. Like, they did everything they needed to win. It's just they got a nice push from a ridiculous call.
Ridiculous, and it's a shame. It's a shame because it does somewhat, what they've accomplished is nothing short of magnificent, and it does tarnish it a little bit. You know, when you just sort of, because there's this narrative, and the narrative exists for a reason. Because we're all watching the same games, we're all like, come on, like that, wait, what? That doesn't make sense, you know what I mean? And it's not just like some biased, anti-Chiefs fan, like announcers are saying it, like people that are objective about the league are saying it. Like, so it's a shame though, because what they've accomplished is fantastic.
I think for the most part, like, I don't think there's any Chiefs conspiracy. I think the thing is with the Chiefs is that their quarterback has a skill that is in eliciting late contact from defensive players. That's a skill. That's something that he is really good at, and that has led to big calls in the past. Yesterday, I think it's just they just made one really bad call, and that bad call could have gone in the other direction, just unfortunately happened to go in Kansas City's direction, and that was a big part of
those things are always tough. You never want to see that decide an actual game. In this game, I don't think he did, but if you go back to the Ravens versus Bills, there was a phantom defensive pass interference call on Tre'Davious White. It should have been a no call.
Yep.
If anything, offensive pass interference, Bills get 7 points on that. So it's like we go to every game. But the Chiefs, like you even said, Matthew, it's not a coincidence that they're just here every single year.
My biggest takeaway, I thought, was they were the better team, and they were the better coached team. I thought Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo on that in each case were better than their counterparts on the other side of the ball. The blitz on fourth down, the corner blitz that Spags disguised. I thought that was I don't know how you don't think.
It's just like every single big play. Like it's the same thing with Purdy in the Super Bowl with the fourth down. It's like he does the same thing every time. It's a corner blitz.
In some of those plays, the Bills are ready for it.
But they disguised it. Yeah.
Like Josh converted some of those, and you got guys like Mac Hollins like running almost wide open because they was ready. That time they just weren't. But you talk about better coach. I don't know if we're supposed to talk about this now, but when we start talking about James Cook, oh man, like that part got me heated.
Well, by the way, that was one of the places I was going. That was so mind-boggling to me. I mean, for all the accolades that Joe Brady has gotten since taking over in the middle of last year.
Yeah.
I thought he, for the most part, called an awful game. Yeah. Like when they were, we'll get to James Cook in a second, but I think about when they were on their last touchdown, they ended up getting bailed out on 4th down because he finds Curtis Samuel in the back of the end zone.
Third down
but the fade on 3rd down, like I was like, what are you doing? How can you throw a fade
there? That was
there?
asinine. Because you know you're going for it on 4th down.
Right.
I'm saying, like, I'm on the Bills to win the Super Bowl, texting buddies like, all right, this is 4-down territory. Let's run out a shotgun on 3rd down. Like, you need to play as though you have 2 chances to get this. That was just an insane, bad throw, bad calls, bad everything.
You bailed them out. The ball should have been in Josh Allen's hands or James Cook's hands. Like that, on that 3rd down play, you just take out a play right there.
Yeah, I mean, like, or even before you get to the 4th down, that sequence, like the fact that James Cook, who averaged over 8 yards a carry, was killing him, that he only got 13 rush attempts is criminal. It's also very upsetting for somebody that had over 14 and a half. Thank you very much. But honestly, like, the bet was right. They should have ridden him. That was an area of strength for the Bills and an area of weakness for the Chiefs defense. It also keeps Mahomes on the sideline. It controls the clock, everything like that. And so the fact that on their final drive, they're down. And yet, so the 4th and 1 stop, which was awful, and you say it didn't decide the game. I think you can make an argument that it did, because
the Bills were minus 220 to win the game in real time when that call was made.
Yeah, I mean, like, if they convert that 4th down and they continue on and they score, they're probably feels like, if nothing else, they get a field goal there. And so who knows? You know what I mean? But like, if it's a potentially 14-point swing, because the Bills could have scored a touchdown, they didn't. Yeah. Chiefs take over, they go down and they score a touchdown. The other thing that's weird, though, by the way, just as I'm all over the place, but talking about that particular sequence, I thought Dalton Kincaid got a 1st down on the 3rd down.
I know, it's unbelievable.
Like,
they screwed up twice.
The fact that they didn't stop and challenge that or say, whatever, like, because it did seem like Kincaid got over there, and then it was like 4th and inches, and then somehow, I mean, he did convert it. I thought he converted it. You know what I mean? But either so. But just about and then we go back to the last drive. Okay, fine. Now they're down a touchdown, and now here's Josh Allen, like, on the 3rd down of the 4-down series in which they ultimately turned it over, right? The 3rd down prior to the not Hail Mary, but the heave to, off of the blitz to the Kincaid drop. So, like, it's a screen to Amari Cooper. Yeah. What do you?
I mean, I think they knew that there was heavy pressure coming in, and I thought the throw was a bit behind. Like, it wasn't a great throw. It was just a little bit all over the place. They didn't call a great final series.
That actually could have been a good play. Yeah. It just
the timing was slightly off.
They're down 3. They're down 3. They get the ball back with, I think, 3 minutes left. How many? 2.5.
They had plenty of time. Clock wasn't a factor.
Clock wasn't a factor. They had all timeouts. They're on the positive side of the 2-minute warning. And James Cook does not touch the ball on that last drive. He was out there for a couple of pass routes, but he literally did not touch the ball on that final drive. And it's like, this is a guy that's been great all year. And that's, I mean, I think if there's a lot of things you could point to. Mahomes' greatness, Reed's greatness, Juju Smith-Schuster, but like, also I think Joe Brady's play calling is as much to blame for the Bills' loss as anything.
Yeah, and I get that he's not like the 3rd down back, and that they were playing out of that situation a lot where they did know that they wanted to throw the ball, but still, for James Cook to only play 46% of the snaps, and just not even to have the threat of him when
in a game in which he's killing it.
Yeah.
This is why I believe that the Bills didn't win. James Cook, you talk about the drives and all that. Their first drive in the 3rd quarter, where Cooks ran for 5 carries, 45 yards, and he scored. That showed you how they could dominate the rest of this game and win that game. He had 7 rushes for 58 yards in the 3rd quarter alone. Other than that, they weren't feeding him. And to be honest, they had been riding James Cook in opportunistic defensive plays for their past 5 or 6 games down the stretch of the season. I just, like, Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, that's a tier right there. James Cook is right below that. And if you give him the touches that he needs, he's a 1,800-yard back. And he showed that versus the tough Chiefs defense. You have to, like, I feel like Joe Brady, like, do you want Josh Allen to be the hero? We know he could be the hero, but when you got James Cook and he has the defense on their heels, so explosive. I think he was their best offensive player last night who just wasn't used enough.
Yep.
It's super weird that just like, to your point, like he's so explosive on that first drive. You're like, we're gonna ride him until you prove us you can prove to us you can stop him.
They didn't stop him.
No, not at all.
They didn't stop him.
Well,
no, but they're like, no, season-defining drive. Let's make sure we give it to Ty Johnson.
Just the
like,
waste of a play. Let's talk about Josh Allen, but first let's hear from Josh Allen on losing to the Chiefs yet again.
Josh, to come up short again, what are your emotions right now?
It's not fun. But to beat the champs, you gotta beat the champs, and we didn't do it tonight.
Josh, how much does the fact that it's been this specific team that's ended you guys this season so often in the playoffs add to the disappointment there?
Well, they've ended a lot of team seasons too. And it's a good squad. They had a good plan tonight, and again, they made more play than we did.
Tough scene from Josh Allen losing to the Chiefs for a fourth time in the playoffs.
And I feel like Josh Allen has kind of like is one of those guys that has 100% universal appeal. Everyone loves Josh Allen. I think most of America was rooting for Josh Allen and the Bills to make it there, except for Lawrence. Yeah,
but I wasn't.
Over here.
But I wasn't rooting against him either. So
yeah, I would say with Allen, it was strange watching a lot because guys like Allen and Lamar, like they don't really have bad games. They're just too good to not have these amazing moments. I thought Allen last night, I thought that he was very sped up, and I thought that he played a little nervous. And look, they scored 29 points. They did enough on offense. He did enough for them to win the game. I think they mainly lost the game because they just couldn't stop Mahomes whatsoever. But like Allen's first two throws should have been picked. The Superman leap at midfield was completely deranged. That was an insane decision. He fumbled another snap because he took his eyes off the ball. That could have been a turnover as well. He kept on rolling out to his right.
On the Superman leap, there was also there was a face mask that didn't get called. I mean, like he got completely, and just again, like the refs just.
I thought those
that did
passes,
not happen to Patrick Mahomes. All right, never mind.
Yeah. Those passes, they didn't get picked. They did enough to win on offense. But I thought that it's strange because
it wasn't his best game.
No, he played. It was funny because last year against the Chiefs in the playoffs, I thought he was flawless. He was magnificent. This time is a little bit shaky. He's a little bit more old gunslinger Josh Allen, but ultimately it's not his fault clearly that they lost.
He made some plays. The pass to Matt Collins there was a brilliant catch by
Hollins. The last
Hollins,
touchdown was amazing. How he zipped it into the window as well. Yeah. Even the last throw to Dalton Kincaid. I don't think there's anyone else on the planet who can make that throw in that situation.
Yeah, just the fact that he gave Kincaid a chance to make a play. Kincaid had a bad game too, by the way.
I would say this about Josh Allen and even Lamar too. I feel like Josh Allen and Lamar, they get to these points, right? It's this little thing in their mind where they feel like they have to just do it all. Yep. And you notice the two quarterbacks in the Super Bowl right now are not that way. Like Kareem Hunt ran the ball more than James Cook in an AFC Championship game. That should tell you all you need to know. And the Chiefs ran the ball 35 times. I think Josh Allen and Lamar, they get to these points, and I think sped up was a perfect way to put it. He came out in the game and seemed a little flustered. He got it together, but I think it's this thing in his mind, and him and Lamar, they just think that they got to do it all.
That's a fascinating idea there, Lawrence, and I think you're probably right in the fact that Mahomes is sort of again, and I think this is all subconscious stuff, right? But Mahomes is sort of been there, done that. I don't need to be the superhero. I don't care. We're just trying to win a ball game. I don't care. But there's such a narrative around Lamar can't win the big one. Josh Allen can't win the big one, right? And that kind of stuff. So there is that feeling of that there's maybe this small sprinkling of distrust of your teammates. Whereas, again, Patrick Mahomes last night was trusting.
See Juju out there?
Yeah, that's as my friend Peter Overzet calls him, Juju Smith's poopster.
Wow.
Again,
not anymore.
Strong. Strong. But that's my point. It's like Kelsey does nothing, right? But they get production from Kareem Hunt, who was on the couch to start the season. Who was sitting out of football at the start of the season, and Juju Smith-Schuster, who didn't have a lot of other options.
Yeah.
you know, and
Kareem Hunt talking about something. We going back like he was there on the other ones.
you know, just right. Like he was there.
We going back. Where you going back to?
Yeah, you were in Cleveland last time we saw you. But I mean, you know, like Xavier Worthy stepped up. You know, in a game in which Travis Kelce has a 16% target share. That's his lowest ever in a playoff game since the 2019 Super Bowl. He'd had 14 straight playoff games with at least 70 or more receiving yards, so he winds up with only 2 for 19. It's his lowest ever in a playoff game. In a game in which they get no production out of Travis Kelce, again, Justin Watson catches the 2-point conversion. Hollywood Brown had some nice plays. Again, Kareem Hunt and Juju Smith-Schuster. Like when we started the season, we're like, oh, this is going to be Isaiah Pacheco and Rashee Rice and Kelce, and it's Juju and Hunt and Watson, and that's the brilliance of Andy Reid's play calling. That's the brilliance of 15. Like, give the Chiefs credit, and we'll get to this. I mean, they're the 4th team in NFL history with 3 straight Super Bowl appearances. This is there's so many crazy stats, and you're going to hear all of them over the next 2 weeks from us and everyone else that covers football and is going to talk about the Super Bowl matchup. But one of them is that Patrick Mahomes has been an NFL starting quarterback for 7 seasons. That's it, 7 seasons. Yeah. He's played in the Super Bowl in 5 of them.
That's crazy.
I mean, most quarterbacks don't get to the Super Bowl 5 times in their career, and he's done it in 5 of his first 7.
The 2 times that he didn't make it, one was because D Ford was offsides against the Patriots.
Yep.
Like if he's just
speaking of a call that game,
yes.
Tom Brady, that's still crazy.
Yeah.
But
if he's D Ford is just 2 inches, Mahomes is in another Super Bowl, and then they lost in OT to the Bengals in an AFC title game, and that is the one game on Mahomes' kind of legacy. And look, his legacy is far overwhelmed by the successes, but that was the one time that he did get a bit rattled. But outside of that, I think the key is with Mahomes, Matthew, and you brought it up, is that he's just made greatness seem so routine. Like he is just completely unflustered. There is a 0% chance he is going to be overawed by the moment in the Super Bowl. And I think that is the best thing about him, is just that calmness under pressure.
He's been in the NFL 8 years, 7 seasons as a starter. His rookie year, he only didn't start till the last game. With this victory, he passes Joe Montana for the 2nd most playoff wins in NFL history. In 8 years, he's 17-3 in the playoffs for his career. 17-3. Like Joe Montana, who many people consider, the greatest or one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
Brady was for a long time.
For a long time, he was the gold standard, and then Brady, of course. But still, to be,
you're passing Joe Montana.
Well, you're passing Joe Montana ever in your career would be a milestone. But to do it in your first 8 seasons and really only 7 as a starter is ridiculous.
Yeah. And the thing is this Chiefs team's really not that amazing. In terms of the talent, yes, it's obviously still Mahomes. They're still a very talented team, but they shouldn't have been moving the ball successfully as they did yesterday. Yeah. It's just that they press on every advantage. Christian Benford's out. All right, Kyrie Lamb, if you're getting targeted every single time, and it was just comical the extent to which they took advantage of him. They just make the right decisions. They optimize absolutely everything, and they deserve to be where they are.
I think Xavier Worthy has arrived, especially over the second half of the season. I think that's a big reason they needed him to, mature in his game a little bit. 7 straight games with at least 5 receptions, had a team high 28% target share. Going forward in fantasy, it'll be interesting to see where he goes now that we see he's clearly the number 1 wide receiver.
Well, they're going to have Rashee Rice back next. The Chiefs are going to be a disaster for people that do what we do and because people have emerged while Rashee Rice has been out, and I don't know what you do with the running back situation. I think if you're the Chiefs, they've got to bring Kareem Hunt back. I think he's on a 1-year whatever deal.
Bring in a rookie too.
Probably soon, but Pacheco this is 3rd straight game with 7 or fewer touches, and if you watch the games, you're like, I get it. Hunt has looked better. Kareem Hunt has just absolutely looked better. Pacheco has just been. It's so weird. And I don't know if maybe next year he'll be more explosive after a year removed from the injury. But he looks like he's running in mud. Although he did convert the clutch. He made that big play at the end of the game to seal.
He had a lot of grass to run with on that play.
He did. It was just a perfect scheme. Okay. Well, again, that's what we talk about with the defense. Again, they just. They just defensively they weren't ready for the Chiefs.
Yeah, it's like McDermott didn't call a good game.
No.
They just completely butchered it on defense. Make Mahomes throw deep. Make these guys win in single coverage. You can't just get just sliced to death like that over and over
To
again.
me, the call was a big one, and I was going to focus on the call, but Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo just out-coached their counterparts on the Bills significantly.
Yep.
They did. And that's, to me, the biggest reason why Kansas City is making its third straight Super Bowl appearance. And I'm officially rooting for them, by the way.
Exactly.
I'm officially rooting for them.
Because
Like, if they're going to be there, I want Bills Commanders. That's the Super Bowl I wanted. But now that that's not going to happen, give them a three-peat because they deserve it.
Yep. Okay, well, let's do it, Matthew. Let's talk about the Commanders. But first, let's hear from Saquon Barkley on his expectations winning the Super Bowl.
When you signed here in free agency, did you think this would be a possibility to go to the Super Bowl your first year as an Eagle?
Of course, that's why I came here. It's one of the first conversations I had with Howie. That's a conversation I had with my family. And like I said last week, came to Philly to be a part of games like this. And nothing better than a game where you can advance to the Super Bowl. So super excited about that. And it was a team effort, and we'll give a shout out to all the guys on our team.
Saquon Barkley, just a casual 15 for 118, 3 touchdowns. Felt like a quiet game for Saquon after the epic first play from scrimmage from the Eagles. But yeah, he is talking about making greatness routine. Saquon has done that all season. Will Shipley breaks one at the end.
I was so happy for that guy, man.
And then Jalen Hurts with just the casual 3 rushing touchdowns of his own. All right, Matthew, over to you. Do you want to air it out? You want to talk about your Sunday? It's a great season.
Yes, sir. Yeah, let's clap it up for them.
Yeah.
I was going to say,
Jayden Daniels, Commanders, come on,
Look,
Jayden Daniels drinks for free.
By the way, Jayden Daniels
There's only candidates. But
there were many candidates, obviously. Mahomes, Reid, Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley. But it's my show, damn it. So Jayden Daniels drinks for free, and I'm going to tell you why. He played, first off, obviously the Commanders got their butts kicked yesterday, but you know what? It wasn't Jayden Daniels' fault.
No.
And so many people were like, "Are you upset?" I'm like, "No. You know what? Like I would love to go on a rant here, and I'm sure I'll get worked up to it too. But ultimately, at the end of the day, 2 things. Number one is this is the most fun I've had in a season in a long time. Probably the best season I've ever had. Right? It certainly as an adult. And Jayden Daniels is the reason for that. So you know what? I mean. And this is better than RG3's rookie year, honestly. I mean, they made it farther, and so Jayden Daniels provided me with that. And look, do I wish we didn't have 3 turnovers? All of them were brutal. Yes, I do. I don't feel like the refs really helped us out. There was like face mask calls, and I thought the roughing, the unnecessary roughness on Saquon was baloney. Like I thought that was a ridiculous call, especially in a championship game. I felt like they let a lot of stuff going. I felt like the Commanders were getting held like on every play. Nothing got called, but Commanders probably held a decent amount as well. So I don't think the refs helped us out either. But at the end of the day, we couldn't stop them. We couldn't play any defense. Marshawn Lattimore was a disaster this entire year. They're just the Eagles are a better team, top to bottom. They are deeper. They are more experienced. They are more talented. They're just a better team. And so you know what? The Commanders gave me a great season. The future is so bright. I'm so thrilled with the organization from top to bottom. Even though I went there, and I'll talk about I did end up going to the game. But it was a great experience, honestly, and it was a great season, and we had a blast. And I think if that game gets played again, maybe we got a shot. But they're a better team. Yeah. Just they just are.
They would only
off to Philadelphia.
They would only lose by like 17.
So there you go. So that's the photo of us outdoors. Is so we were in this box that had like a deck on it, and so we were like, we before the game we're outside on the deck, but then. We were in the box because I was like, wow, you're wearing gear. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, because I'm in a box filled with Commanders fans as well. And so it was great. That was, I said I was only going to go to the game if I was in a suite because I wasn't going to be out there. Yeah. And I ended up getting hooked up. And so.
Beth, much better dressed than you as per
obviously. She always is.
Good hat game from Beth.
Yeah, Beth,
you switched up hats. You switched up the.
Wow, I brought 2.
Well, yeah. Well, I had inside. I had a baseball hat. I had a Commanders baseball hat, and I had a beanie outside as well. It was weather appropriate. But yeah, I mean, it was just those turnovers were such killers, and I think we talked about this on this show. Was that the Commanders had gotten to this spot by winning the turnover battle? They got the 5 against Detroit. They got a couple against Tampa Bay. By the way, that's how the Eagles got to here as well. Like they got the turnovers against the against the Packers and the Rams, and so ultimately they got the turnovers we didn't. I will ask this though. I do have one genuine question. Again, they're the better team. Could some calls have gone our way? Sure. But at the end of the day, they were the better team. Asked and answered. But like the Eckler fumble, like I didn't get that because like, tell me if I'm wrong, right? But I remember like the opening kickoff fumble in the Packers game, right? It appeared like the guy on the Packers recovered in the pile, recovered in the pile, right? It recovered in the pile, but then somehow one of the Eagles came up with it, and they ultimately awarded it to the Eagles because at the end of the day, the guy in the Eagles came out with it. Yeah. But then in the Eckler fumble, we come out with a ball. Our center literally comes out holding the ball at the end of it, but they gave it to the Eagles. Yeah. So I don't understand how those two plays are the same.
I don't know.
I think the Packers one was just a bad call. I think the Eagles one, the Commanders Eckler one was probably
I think maybe the Commanders guy came with it after the fact. Maybe that's what that was.
So I'm watching it live. So there's probably some replay stuff that I missed, and I haven't had a chance to watch it back yet. It's going to take me a couple of days to work up to doing that.
I need to watch that game.
But yeah, it did seem like all of a sudden there's a scrum, and all of a sudden, Biadaz, I don't know exactly how to pronounce his last name, but like he comes out holding the ball, and I'm just like, how is that not our ball? That was they were all killers, but that one down 11, but we're driving, and if we score there, it's a one-score game with basically the fourth quarter still to play.
Yeah, I will say this was probably the closest 55-23 game I've ever seen. I guess if they do, just that play doesn't happen. It's probably a contest, and it's probably tight in this one single-digit game at the end at least.
I didn't know they were going to have 4 turnovers. I did take the Eagles minus 11.5, so I thought maybe without the turnovers, it's a 2-touchdown game. But you could find solace in this, Matthew, and other Commanders fans out there. One, you got Jayden Daniels in the NFC, where you don't have to play the Josh Allens, Lamars, and Patrick Mahomes.
And Joe Burrows.
And Joe Burrows, yes, sir, definitely. So you got Jayden Daniels, who's a top quarterback already in that conference. So you're always going to have a shot. The roster's only going to get better, especially defensively. And there's still a couple pieces you can add on offense as well. So I know it's hard. Obviously, it's hard to get back. But you have this. You have that. And one last thing. They probably weren't going to win anyway. But it would have been, like y'all said, a better game. It was a tough game to win because you said it. More talented team. The run was hard to stop regardless of the turnover. It was just tough. But Commanders, they're going to be for real.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, well,
future's bright in Washington, but you're right. I mean, like, defensively, we just could never get a stop. We only forced 2 punts as well. And, I don't know if he's hurt or if he's just washed, but Lattimore was a liability. No, and seriously. Marshawn Lattimore was just an absolute liability.
I thought at one point the Commanders strategically tried to, use Lattimore to get A.J. Brown out the game when he went. I was like, oh, this is kind of smart because A.J. Brown's a hell of a lot more valuable to the Eagles than he is to the Commanders.
Correct.
Anybody could get beat deep by A.J. Brown.
That sequence towards the end of the first half where he gives up the 4th and 5, the long pass, I think it was 31 yards to A.J. Brown. He gives that up. Then gets away with a pass interference on Dallas Goedert, like he did, right? Yeah. And so we're like, oh, okay. Yeah. And then does a pass interference on Devontae Smith. It's weird. I thought the Goedert one was actually was worse than the Smith one. Yeah. Like it was more blatant. Whatever. Anyway. But anyway, it was, and then gets into a fight, gets the, I didn't understand why that wasn't on both of them, because, A.J. Brown does take his helmet off.
He takes his helmet off, but you know how it goes. They always see the last guy, and by that time, A.J. Brown's like, oh, I didn't do anything, but you did. But his arms is out, and Lattimore's about to, suplex.
It's just an awful sequence for Lattimore there. But again, the roughing the passer penalty on I'm sorry, not the roughing the pass, the unnecessary roughness on Saquon when he was going out of bounds. He was hit out of bounds, but it's is one step away, and I don't know what that guy's supposed to do. He's trying to you don't know if Saquon's going to cut back in. He's not a quarterback. Lamar Jackson got hit much worse.
I think the Lamar one was worse easily. I think the Saquon one was too bang. In fact, when that happened, I text one of my buddies. I'm like, man, because I play defense. So I'm like, man, the defensive players, we are effed.
Yeah,
right.
Well, listen, you've still got Jayden Daniels, Matthew,
yes,
and we heard from Jayden Daniels talking about the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, turnovers play a huge factor into the game, especially playing a good team like Philly. You can't get those guys extra possessions. Obviously, man, it sucks, man. It sucks. Excuse my language. But just I couldn't be prouder of the guys in the locker room. Just year one, everybody not really knowing each other. Rookies, the vets did a tremendous job of, bringing us in and helping us out. And we all just meshed, and we got to this point. But at the end of the day, man, we lost. It sucks. But we'll move on from this.
Well, there's 5 dudes in the NFL at quarterback, Matthew, the 4 guys in the AFC, and Jayden Daniels, I think. And I know that people said the same thing about C.J. Stroud, but Jayden Daniels had a better season this year than Stroud did last year, and so you've got, hopefully a decade plus to look forward to.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, no, 100%. I will say, a couple quick things about this game as well. Like I said, I don't know. I wish the refs had called a better game. It still probably wouldn't have mattered. They're the better team. I'm not trying to make excuses. They're the better team, and we turned the ball over 4 times. Well, the last one didn't matter.
Yeah,
the last interception, we turned it over 4 times, 3 that were really crushing, and that was the difference in the game. But I do have to give credit. Listen, Eagles defense was phenomenal. They played great, and give credit to Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley. I was excited at the very beginning. I'm like, okay, hey, the 4th down, they go for it, a long drive. We put points on the board. I'm like, perfect. Yeah. First play from scrimmage, 60 yards to the house. I'm like, well, there you go. And then Dimey Brown fumbles, and then next thing you know, now it's 14-3. And I'm like,
got out of hand quickly.
It just got out of hand quickly. And we'd had this great long time possession. We still clawed our way back a little bit. But when you've got Dimey Brown and Jeremy McNichols in high leverage situations, in an NFC championship game, stuff like that is going to happen. I do want to say, though, Jalen Hurts took a lot of criticism heading into this game. And, I thought he was brilliant. I thought he played as good. I thought he was, I wish he hadn't been. It was annoying. But, the 4th and 5, again, Lattimore got beat badly. But, perfect pass to, I don't even know if that was the play call. I think they just saw him in single coverage and were like, all right, screw that.
Because he missed him the first time Hurts didn't throw it to A.J. Brown, and he beat him then, too. He got him the second time.
Yeah, 4 touchdowns in this game total. Led his team to, Washington's defense just kind of broke down. But, just in terms of his rushing, I thought his passing, he played the perfect game. And I'll also say this about, I thought the underrated thing, people talk about the rushing touchdowns, that he looked healthy and everything like that about Jalen Hurts. I thought one thing that he did really well that I haven't seen anyone really mention, he didn't take a sack. Yeah. There were a number of times in which pressure got there, and he was able to extend the play long enough to throw it out of bounds, and he just didn't take sacks. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's been one of the challenges somewhat of his recently. And anyway, I thought he played a brilliant game. Saquon was Saquon, of course. It was, great to see A.J. Brown the week after I tout him on national television go off. Thanks, A.J. That was great to see.
About Jalen Hurts, too. By the way, I was not one of those people criticizing
You were not.
When I talked about earlier Josh and Lamar having that little thing mentally that just keeps them from, taking that next level, if I had a quarterback rankings list and it was all about the on-field mental toughness, just being unbothered, I would put Jalen Hurts right there, right behind Patrick Mahomes. I'll probably have Baker Mayfield up there somewhere, talking just mentals, because Baker's not as gifted as all these other dual-threat quarterbacks, but I would have Jalen Hurts right there. And you better believe in this Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts is going to give the Eagles whatever they need. If they need him to throw, he could do that. We saw him throw. He damn near outplayed Patrick Mahomes the last Super Bowl. That one fumble 6 cost them. But Jalen Hurts, yeah, man, he's here at the right time.
Yeah.
I think the thing with Hurts is that, and the reason he is criticized, and the reason I criticize him as well, is that, like, he's not as good as Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, but he is still clearly a very good, very above-average quarterback.
You just can't put him with those guys.
He's a tier below, but he's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. There's no question about it, and he was brilliant when it mattered the most. Congratulations to him. And finally, last shout, I just want to say, like, shout out to Zach Ertz.
Yeah.
Right? Zach Ertz, who, like, again, was out of football a year ago against his former team. Like, there's a lot of reasons why the Commanders lost yesterday, but Zach Ertz was absolutely not one of them. He showed up as well. Him and Jayden Daniels. It's really frustrating because those two guys showed up. Not everyone did for
Bring
Washington.
him back. Bring Zach Ertz back.
Yeah. I mean, anyway, brilliant. So I just want to give a shout out there.
Another guy who showed up after looking like he wasn't going to show up is Liam Coen, who showed up in Jacksonville. He's the head coach of the Jags now after going back and forth. But he has decided to take that role in Jacksonville, where he will be coaching Trevor Lawrence. CBS Sports' Jonathan Jones reporting Chip Kelly is considered a target for both the Jags and Texans OC positions. So that may be Liam Cohen's man there. But the Jags, they get their man in the end after a strange process. But I think given what he showed with revolutionizing that Bucs offense, you have to feel good about the prospects of Trevor Lawrence going forward.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, I don't know if Liam Coen gets any credit for revolutionizing the Bucs offense. I mean, like, I think Dave Canales did that. He kept it going.
It's more like pass rate over expectation. It was a bit more modern, less running Rashad White for 3 yards a carry, that type of stuff.
Yeah. But definitely, this is
a strange photo for those watching on the
I wasn't going to say nothing.
What is that?
It's a weird-looking facial expression.
I'm not sure about that at all.
On Liam Coen, but certainly,
maybe they didn't get there, man.
When you sit there and you think about,
say maybe they did.
Yeah.
When you sit there and you think about what Baker and Evans were able to do, and you start thinking about Trevor Lawrence and Brian Thomas, like like there's going to be some weapons there. Like it'll be interesting to see, like, does Christian Kirk come back and Evan Ingram and everything like that. But I think ultimately, for somebody that has Trevor Lawrence in Dynasty and has been disappointed so far, you're happy to see this. By the way, and I get Bucs fans are up. I don't think Liam Coen did anything wrong. Maybe that's a controversial take here because basically, as I understand it, he was interviewing for a head coaching job, and he said to the Jaguars, like, I'm interested, but if Trent Baalke's still here, I don't want to come.
That makes
and
some
so I'm coming back. And then Shad Khan was like, all right, you're fired, Trent Baalke. And so if Liam Coen had left to be an OC at another team, I think you have something. But he's got an opportunity to be a head coach in the NFL, and those opportunities don't come along all the time. And so, I mean, you can't think of a better example than Bobby Slowick.
Yeah.
I mean, think about this. Bobby Slowick, interviewed for 5 different head coaching jobs last year. Either didn't get them or didn't take one, and now he just got fired by Houston.
Yeah.
And so he's got those opportunities don't come along very long, and this one's I think a good opportunity because you've got a quarterback.
And you don't want to overplay your hand,
right?
Like Slowick apparently had done.
Yeah.
Still rattled by this headshot. Looks like he's about to call Crystal Palace Brentford.
Is that like his main joint, like on the official website? That's like a school photo.
It's a little bit like he's your waiter and you just ordered like the worst possible wine with your steak.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, really? Are you sure that's what you want to go with?
Yeah. You got to
and then he make that face.
Yeah.
you got to knock the Jags win total down, at least one win after this photo, I think.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Raiders, who hired Pete Carroll as their head coach.
Yeah.
And the Athletics.
Let's hear it for the old guys.
Okay.
Let's go.
Go old guys.
Yeah.
The Athletics' Jeff Howe said one name he has heard to watch for the Raiders at quarterback is Russell Wilson. A little reunion with Pete Carroll would make a lot of sense.
It would,
Matthew.
actually. It would. It would make a lot of sense, especially because, I mean, what Russell wants to, where Russell is best is what they did with him somewhat in Pittsburgh, and what he certainly did with Pete in Seattle, which is they're going to be a run heavy, and then they're going to try to, they're going to be efficient and take some shots deep. And that's what they did with, that's when Russell was his most effective in Pittsburgh and obviously in Seattle. He's not a high volume guy, certainly not this stage of his career.
If Russell Wilson, I just don't see I don't understand. I've never worked in the NFL. I don't see the vision. So you're in that division.
Yeah, you want to go 8-9. That's the
Yeah,
vision.
like, what's
it's an
the-
8-9 vision.
Like what? Like I just if you get Carroll and now if it's somebody else because we like Russell Wilson don't move like he used to.
Yeah.
He still got the arm. He could get the ball down there, still accurate, but he don't move like he used to. So I just want to know like what are they trying to do?
Not much. It's not a great.
Honestly, this would be well. I mean, they haven't made the move yet, but this would be my suspicion.
Or draft quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a great quarterback class, and they're not going to be high enough to get, Sanders or Sanders Award. So I think the idea is like, let's sign Russell Wilson to a 1-year deal, bring some professionalism to the team, some competency. We'll focus on defense this year.
Yeah.
And then next year, hopefully, we can either draft someone, but because right now the Raiders' product isn't great, and so I think hey, we're in Las Vegas. We know we're in at least Russell Wilson gives us a fighting chance, right? Yeah. He's not Mahomes. He's not Herbert. He's probably not even Bo Nix at this point. But
and he won't have to fight the temptations of Las Vegas.
But think about there you go.
He'll be good.
Sierra do a stint at the MGM or something like that, and suddenly she'll have a residency. Yeah. I mean, that would be my only suspicion there is because at least, by the way, think about who else is out. There's no one else out there. Like, what are you going to do? Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones? Like, I don't know that there's a great solution out there as well. Last one here. We have a minute till break. Let's just talk about Brian Schottenheimer being hired as the head coach of the Cowboys. He was their offense coordinator. Mike McCarthy was the one calling the plays, but certainly familiar with the system here as you see this tweet from Adam Schefter. Brian, quote, Jerry Jones, quote, Brian Schottenheimer is known as a career assistant. He ain't Brian no more. He is now known as the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. How about them Cowboys, Lawrence?
That's interesting, too.
It's one of the most ridiculous quotes I've ever seen in my life. He ain't Brian no more. What does that mean? He literally is Brian.
Brian,
still.
right.
Yeah.
So we can't call him Brian anymore? We have to call him head coach?
We'll
head
see.
coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
While I think it is an uninspiring hire, it is not surprising to me. This is why I couldn't understand anyone talking about the Dion rumors, because it's like Jerry Jones wants to be the star there, and Dion would have been the star. Yeah. Brian Schottenheimer's not stealing any headlines away from Jerry Jones. As you see his resume there, Cowboys OC, he was the Seahawks OC. He did call the plays there in Seattle.
But a lot of run, pass.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. And we'll talk about that in the next segment. You figure they get a running back this offseason as well. I think the positives here for us in the world of fantasy is that the offense should look pretty much the same. Dak will be good. CeeDee Lamb will get a lot of targets. Ferguson will be a top 10 tight end, and they'll have a better run game than they had this year because they'll have somebody better than Dowdle.
Yep, indeed. Plenty of time to talk about the Cowboys. We're off to break for now. When we come back, who's eating good? We'll hear about guys at the Senior Bowl from our man Connor Rogers.
What's up, guys? Happy Senior Bowl week. I'll be down in Mobile, Alabama, watching one of the better rosters we've seen over the last decade, and I want to go through 3 players that I think will not only be huge names in the NFL draft, but on our fantasy radar going into next year. Let's start with Jayden Higgins, the wide receiver from Iowa State. 6'4", 212 pounds. He's got ball skills. He's obviously got ability in the red zone, but I think this guy moves differently for his size after the catch, can play inside and outside, really, really good hands. And that takes me next to a tight end in Harold Fannin Jr., who it's not every day you see a tight end at the college level go for over 1,500 yards. Like Trey McBride a couple years ago, who also had a good Senior Bowl week, Fannin Jr. was the player in his offense. The offense ran through him. And finally, of course, a quarterback, Jalen Milroe. You love what he could do with his legs. He's got arm talent, but he needs some development. He might need some time on the bench. But listen, this guy ran for 32 touchdowns over the last 2 years, ran for over 700 yards this year. When Milroe's number is called, we'll be talking about him a lot on the fantasy radar.
Okay, who's eating good?
Yeah.
Good to hear from our man, Connor Rogers.
As somebody who watched a lot of Alabama football this year, Connor's not wrong. Jalen Milroe is crazy, crazy athletically gifted, but 3 times a game he does something that drives you absolutely crazy and insane.
Yeah, needs to exercise the crazy out of his game a little
like,
bit, but he has all the
what are
talent
you
in the world.
doing, Milroe? That is something that I said probably at least once or twice a week watching Alabama
he's
football
gonna
this
need
year.
the time to develop for sure.
Okay, well, let's talk about some names who are going to be prominent in the draft cycle and Senior Bowl coming up, and I think the most compelling one, Lawrence, is Ashton Jeanty, runner-up for the Heisman, obviously running back out of Boise State. Connor's 2.0 mock has him going to the Minnesota Vikings, which would be a fun landing spot.
By the way, and his mock is available on NBCSports.com, Rotoworld.com. We're company men. Go check out Connor's mock draft right now.
That's actually refreshing to see a mock that doesn't have Ashton Jeanty going
Cowboys?
to the Cowboys. Although it's a fair spot to have him go. There's other spots though, like the Broncos, Chargers, and some more teams that could use a explosive running back. And speaking of the Cowboys, this is why you like Ashton Jeanty. He's like a more explosive, faster version of Emmitt Smith. When you watch him, he's not the biggest guy, but he's damn sure strong. You've seen him run through the tackles. You don't get 2,500 rushing yards for no reason. If he goes in that first round, which we expect him to, most first round running backs, we pretty much end up drafting him at least in the second or third round in fantasy drafts.
He's going to be a popular pick as well. I so hope he doesn't go to Denver, where Sean Payton, just mixes and matches. Even when he had Alvin Kamara, the Chargers are really interesting. If he goes to the Vikings, that's really interesting as well. Like, again, you want him on a good offense where he's going to be in scoring position often. Dallas, obviously, is interesting. What about Chicago? You know what I mean? If you think about Ben Johnson, where he sits there and he's thinking about, hey, I want my own Sonic and Knuckles here as well. So that could be kind of interesting as well, because I don't know that anyone in Chicago has sort of blown the roof off the doors, so to speak, at the running back position.
Indeed. Tetairoa McMillian, wide receiver out of Arizona, another huge name to watch. Lawrence, Connor's mock has him going to the New York Jets, whose offense is going to be in a lot of flux.
Yeah, Connor would love that. They just got to figure it out at the quarterback position here. McMillan's more of a player. I would describe him as like an explosive version, more explosive version than Drake London. He's got the same style. I would like to see him go to the Carolina Panthers. Let's actually get Bryce Young some real players. And if we're really going to get crazy.
Whoa. Why are you hating on Jalen Coker? Cokeheads are very angry with you.
He's going to be involved. He's going to be involved.
What about Xavier Leggett? What about the X-Man?
Come on. We need a guy like a top 10 talent in there. And I'm talking, let's get real crazy. Let's put him there with T. Higgins. T. Higgins, McMillian there together for Bryce Young.
That's future Washington Commander T. Higgins you're talking about.
If he gets to one of these teams where he's automatically the top receiver, then he'll have the same kind of talk like Marvin Harrison did.
Last guy, Luther Burden III, wide receiver out of Missouri, very high on Connor's big board. Connor has him going to the Broncos, Matthew, who quietly, could use a little bit of help at receiver outside of Colton.
They certainly could. A lot of the teams towards the end of the first round, so Denver at 20, the Steelers at 21, you need somebody other than Pickens, right? You think about the Chargers as well. They need somebody to complement McConkey. Houston picking at 25, right? Diggs was on a one-year deal. Is he coming back? Tank Dell has struggled with injuries his 2 years in the league. So you could see him going somewhere in that range. But Denver definitely needs somebody opposite Cortland Sutton. Even though we saw Marvin Mims come on down the road, Sean Payton, he loves him some wide receivers.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, we're off on our last break. When we come back, last call, first look at the Super Bowl lines. DraftKings Sportsbook is the #1 place to bet touchdowns, and new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the app and use promo code BERRY when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. Okay, Super Bowl, we have our matchup. We have our line and total. It opened Chiefs -1 and a total of 48.5. It is already up to Chiefs -1.5, and the total is 49.5. Lawrence, what's your best bet?
Well, a couple weeks ago, I felt like the Eagles would be better than and would beat one of the Ravens, Bills, or Chiefs. I've always felt like that. I felt like they've had the best teams, and so here we are now. So I'm going to take who I feel is the best team. I think Saquon he might not have as much success running the ball. The Chiefs, you mentioned their coaching. They'll be ready for that, but the Eagles will be able to beat you in different ways, and I think their defense will perform a little bit better versus this Chiefs offense as well.
Okay, what do you like, Matthew?
I'm taking the Chiefs. giving Andy Reid 2 weeks to prepare for it. Everyone says they're going to beat the Chiefs. No one ever actually does.
Yeah,
Give me Patrick Mahomes. Like, I get it how good they are, but this is going to be a tougher defense than what they've seen previously. So I'm believing in the Chiefs until there's a reason not to. Give me the Chiefs -1.5.
Yep. So in games this season where Jalen Hurts has finished the game and had at least one of A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith, the Eagles haven't lost since week 2, and that was by 1 point to the Falcons. And it's not like they've beaten bad teams in that series. They beat the Packers twice. They beat the Ravens in Baltimore.
Yeah.
They beat the Rams twice. They beat the Commanders twice as well. In saying all that, give me the Chiefs as well, because it's still just Patrick Mahomes. It's still Steve Spagnuolo. It's still Andy Reid. I think that this Eagles team, they haven't had to be in positions where they have to drop back and throw a ton. And I think that Spags will be able to put them a bit more in that position. And ultimately, I just trust Patrick Mahomes more.
I will say this, that if the Eagles win, or honestly, even if they don't, it will be a crazy scene in Philadelphia. Last night, so we were able to get, it took us forever. This is the scene of, I'm inside a restaurant. My wife and I were managed to get into a restaurant because we couldn't get across the street to our hotel. That's our hotel across the street. We literally couldn't, and the cops were like, you have to stay there. And this is what's going on outside the house. People like throwing stuff around. Like,
what's the upside?
I don't know I don't know what this guy's doing. He's like this Eagle guy. It's very uncomfortable.
He's on this show.
But he's doing great. Like, it was so insane. Shout out, by the way. It might be that guy. It might be the same guy. Might be a fan.
His hat fell off, though.
Yeah, what are you going to do? Shout out to Lauren, the bartender at the restaurant across the way, because she was like, all right, I know a back way out. So we were able to, she literally snuck us out the back of, because I'm in full Commander's gear, right? It's not like I had to change of clothes. And literally, like, when we were, my wife and I took the subway home, and the cop was like, oh boy, you might want to go a different route. Like, even the cop was like,
if a cop telling you that, you know.
He was just like, yeah, you're on your own. Anyway, congrats to the Chiefs and the Eagles. We'll see you next from New Orleans at the Super Bowl. For Lawrence and Jay, I'm Matthew. Peace out. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and Rotoworld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Rotoworld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.